Hello there, this is Aaron Osborne, the host of the Oblivious Maximus podcast. On my podcast, I chat to people about music and specifically records they really like. Andy was kind enough recently to come on and have a chat, and I've previously had guests from bands like Psychroptic, Cosmic Psychos, Violent Soho, Nails, and people from all walks of life who love talking about music. Head to obliviousmaximus.net for more info or search for Oblivious Maximus podcast wherever you get your podcasts or on social media. Brutal!
Welcome to the Antisocial Podcast, another week of podcasting. And before we kick into this week's episode, come on over and join me on Patreon. Patreon.com/Andy Dowling Official is the place to go to support this little podcast of mine. And support starts from only $1 a month. Dirt cheap, set and forget. Just completely forget about it. It's a little feel-good payment that goes from your pocket to mine. And there are additional tiers if you want to throw me a couple of extra coins each month. You get access to an exclusive podcast each and every week and a bunch of other goodies as well. Patreon.com/Andy Dowling. Yeah, deja vu. Here we go, folks. Another week of podcasting. Episode 241 of the Antisocial Podcast is here in your little ear holes. And this week's guest is Sam Dillon. If you don't know Sam, Sam's an illustrator and a vocalist. He is the frontman in Hadal Maw as well as Low, and he is a shit-hot artist. He does a lot of paintings and illustrations, and in particular, he did a painting recently of my little Larry Bird, which I'll chuck a photo in the show notes over at andysocial.net so you can go and have a sticky beak at that. Go and check out Sam's work over at samraptors.com. And of course, go and check out the bands Low, which is lookandbehold.net, and hadalmaw.com. And of course, I'll have the links to all of his socials, the band socials, all the things we talk about in this episode in the show notes over at andysocial.net and andydowling.net. Almost forgot the name of myself. There you go. Please enjoy this great chat with Sam Dillon. What's the verdict like down there?
Oh, man, it's hard to, like, you kind of go in a cycle, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you kind of go, no, life's good, life's all right, and then, you know, like, first world problems and all that stuff, like, I'm safe, I got my health and all that, and I'm okay for money, but, you know, it doesn't matter how productive you are, as soon as it gets to the end of the day, what are you celebrating? Like, you look around, it's the same four walls that you sat in front of for the last 12 hours.
It's a struggle. It's like, it's one of those things this year where I've always, like anybody really, you have your mental challenges throughout the years. Different things come along in your life and challenge you, and you try and overcome yourself most of the time rather than anything around you. But but this year it's just amplified everything. Like there's so much just inward looking all the time. You're almost forced to have to just be constantly reflective and just be trying to understand what's going on in your head, because as you said, you're just looking around the same four walls around you and just sort of working out, okay, well, what's this all mean? And really, I mean, what time of the day is it? What day of the week is it? And is this going to go on forever? And just, yeah, I'm watching lots of other people online try and digest what's going on, and there's some great examples of people that are just making the most of it and being optimistic and just trying to make the most of what they've got, and other people that are just in a tailspin. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I think I remember seeing online, it would have been a couple of months ago, I would assume, that I think you went full-time freelancing with your work. Is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
And so I guess that's kind of worked out quite well time-wise.
Yeah, like I had a bit of a mental breakdown last year, and it was about 50 to 60% the underlying cause would have been just thinking that I was forced into having to do employment that was not something I was passionate about, but just there to pay the bills. And you'd sort of save your hopes and dreams for a rainy day for when you went on tour, or when someone hit you up to do a painting, or if you saw friends or family, or went traveling.
Yeah.
And when the first isolation kicked in, I knew about it because my sister lives in North Europe, and they'd already been in proper lockdown for a number of weeks, and she warned me that it would be coming our way. So I sort of packed up where I was at my job in hospitality that I'd been doing for almost a decade, and decided I'm going to make the best of it. And I just started churning out paintings and doing freelance illustration, and it turned out for the best. And I decided that I would make the leap and not go back and ever spend another minute doing something that I didn't believe in.
Yeah, it's a hard thing. I mean, we're so programmed to just do things for other people, like that traditional version of employment. You know, you get recruited to do a task and you get compensated for it, and usually the task versus the compensation never quite sort of balances out. But that's what we've been taught to do. You know, ever since we've been kids going through school, it's just to sort of go through the system and come out the other end to start working for somebody else and hit the employment line, and that's about it. So anybody that sort of branches outside of that, it's always been like this big risk. You know, it's unorthodox sort of approach that people take, and I'm always sort of fascinated with people that do take that leap and just give it a go, because you know we're not wired that way. You know, at least over the past however many decades. So I think for you, I mean, it's awesome just even for you to sort of have that knowledge from seeing what's going on in Europe and going, okay, well, if there's any time to do it, probably now's probably the best time.
Definitely. And even though there's obviously massive mental obstacles that are going on with isolation, it's at least when I get up in the morning, I don't have that looming insomnia dread that I was having for a couple of years leading up to this, where I'm going, oh God, do I have to go? Do I have to go punch that time in? Do I have to go, you know, serve the masses, do the thing? And like, sure, if like the world needs people like that, like, but if you're not prepositioned to it, if it's not your passion, it's going to eat away at you like a cancer forever if you just don't make that risk. And my only regret is I didn't make that leap a few years back. But it's just made a massive difference to my stress levels and my anxiety and my ability to stomach the harder parts of life that are happening.
Mm. Did you have any struggle sort of getting started in this, I guess, new format of being self-employed, like just as far as having any structure or routine or anything just to sort of keep on course?
Not really, because I'm a pretty, like, I love to make fun of things and I enjoy a good joke and a story. I use stories as currency pretty much, but when it comes to stuff that I'm creating, I'm quite military about it. I will get up really early. Even when it's freezing cold, I get up, I go for a walk. I come home, I set out what I'm going to do. I'll get really angry and furious at myself if it turns to like 9 a.m. and I haven't already begun on another piece or checked out more commissions or begun doing lyric research for Low or Hadal Maw or wrote down articles that I found like online or on podcasts that were relevant to things I'm creating. And it's this kind of weird, it's sort of like, unrealistic for me to do that because I'd always be chasing the sand through the hourglass. But it's almost like 1 minute has passed. Oh my God. Like, I just get really angry at it if it's outside of my schedule.
Yeah. Oh, I map my days out where usually when I've got full control of my day, I'll map it out in half-hour blocks for the entire time that I'm awake. And there's just no minutes spare. I mean, I will allocate time for me to, air quotes, relax, to veg out and do something, because I know that if I don't allocate that time, then things just fall off the tracks. So I'm similar to you as far as getting really militant as far as structuring things and just making sure that there's something going on all the time. And it's good. I mean, it's fantastic when everything sort of falls into place. But yeah, if something just doesn't quite go to plan, or something goes over time, or doesn't get started when it needs to get started, then it takes me a while to mentally sort of get back on the rails and get back into it. It's sort of like a do or die sort of headspace I put myself in every day.
Yeah, I definitely have like a physical twitch if for some reason if my little narrative in my head of what I was going to be doing for that morning gets thrown out the window, and then someone will be like, hey, do you reckon I could just like borrow this? And I'll be like, yeah, all right. Like, but really it's devastating for me. My
wife cringes because I have to allocate time in my head to go and spend time with her. And she's like, you got to schedule me in. And I'm like, yeah, I do. But I said, don't feel bad about that. It's actually a good thing, because if I don't, then you'll just never see me, because I'll just be totally inundated with everything I'm doing, because I can't sit still. I've always got to do something. I've always got to be busy, and sometimes that can be a bad thing, because sometimes I'm just busy, but busy for the sake of being busy and not actually getting anything done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's funny how, like, you set these rules up in your head, and it can be great if it's used for the power for the powers of good, but sometimes it's a very fine line between it sort of working really well and it just absolutely falling apart.
Yeah. It's like I'm not so worried about me doing things for the sake of doing it, but definitely if a whole day's gone by and I haven't created even just a little bit of something for an hour or a couple, I get very judgmental on my own efforts, and I kind of feel like I'm squandering time a bit by having that happen. And it's totally natural and normal for you to go through a day where perhaps an idea or a painting didn't come to the fruition that you wanted it to. You didn't get the result you were hoping for. And I guess it's just part of life. Will be a lot easier for me when I allow that failure to seep in and happen as part of the process. I don't think I'm a perfectionist, but I just feel like when I do something, I want to give it my full attention while I'm doing it, you know?
And it's also better than just not doing anything at all, like just sitting around or getting distracted with something else and just not even starting. You know, a big challenge that I have is that it's just that first step, like anything, you know, just that first, like picking up a pen or turning on the laptop or whatever it might be, or picking up a guitar. It's just that first action to actually follow through and do the first step is like the make or break, because after that, really, you might create shit. It might be absolute rubbish, but you're already in that thought process. You're starting to get that momentum going. And I think most people don't even get to that first step because we find so many other reasons just to go, I'll get to it shortly.
I had this thought the other day that you've got to, if you're going to be a front person, you kind of have to suspend the disbelief of failure to yourself, because most people would, if pushed to say a position of public speaking or, you know, commanding a room for something, or having to be a bit extra when they're up there. It's not a natural behaviour for a lot of people, and for you to be able to even do that, like I think back when I started, fucking hell, like there were some cringeworthy moments and some terrible haircuts. Like I must have just gone, no, fuck it, I can do it. Or, you know, why are you wearing those purple pants with blah, blah, blah? And you just think, yeah, because I'm awesome, I'm legend, that's what I do. And you have to just sort of be up your own ass a little bit to even make that first step, to start rolling down that hill and standing on your own ideas.
I mean, I think the first time I ever saw you live was with Low, and I'm pretty sure it was in Japan, of all places. And I'd only seen stuff online, just seen some videos and things like that. But to be in that little club in Tokyo and just be sitting up the back with a beer and just watching you on stage, and I'm just going, this is really intimidating. Like, I'm actually thinking that you're about to jump into the crowd and just king hit somebody, because just you're channeling this energy, and it's you're putting on a performance. But just from what you said, I mean, do you go through something in your head, even if it's sort of a little bit subconscious, but sort of this process where you sort of detach yourself before you're about to get started, where you can lose your inhibitions a little bit and just go, oh, fuck it, I'm going to become this persona for the next 40 minutes or whatever it is?
I think it's something I've always been incredibly interested in, performances of creatures and of natural history and biology. And I get most of my sort of inspiration from monologues that happen in depressing movies, or very kind of artistic sort of stuff like that, and little poems and artworks and interviews with painters like Francis Bacon. And that kind of stuff, it's not so human. It's very visceral. It's very primitive. And I never got over Jurassic Park as a child. And I used to pretend I was a velociraptor when I was a little kid. And to the point that I even grew my toenails a bit too long. And I couldn't wear my Ugg boots during winter one year because they were so long that they'd clickety clack like along the tiles in the house. And I just imagined in my head that I would be able to take down a rabbit with my big toe or something crazy like that. But I love performing, and the fact that I've gone to all that effort and jammed with the boys and done all my research for the lyrics and the atmosphere of what I want to create that goes along with this soundscape they've created. Why wouldn't you go 110%? Why wouldn't you put your body on the line for that? Like, I have no interest in standing there with my hands in my pockets. I don't get this sort of Mick Malloy, middle of the road, Big Ben, frozen pie vibe that Australia has of cutting down everyone that puts effort in. Like, especially when they all jerk off in a circle about everything that they love about the extraness of people from Europe and the Americas and Japan. So if your heroes are doing that, who brought you up to cut yourself down so far that you never put in your own effort like that? I don't understand that, and I'm never going to go along those lines. I'd much prefer to give everything I have in my own genuine way, whatever that might be, and express the lyrical and performance side of the band that way.
I think it makes sense. I mean, I always say this to other musos, and they cringe when I say it, but you get on stage to perform, and part of that performance is to entertain, as cheap as that might sound for some people. But you've got to convey whatever the hell you've created in a way that's going to be not just an audible experience, but it's visual. Otherwise, why would you rock up to a live show? Exactly. It's got to be every sense that you can possibly create in this moment in the same room together. So, yeah, I mean, I see lots of bands that get out on stage wearing their camo shorts and their Pantera t-shirts and just with their head down and just chug away and don't really do a great deal and don't look at the crowd. And
I remember that wardrobe, my friend.
Don't worry, I was there too.
It's more just look, what you're wearing is barely consequential there. I think it's the confidence is key in any look, as they say in fashion. And as if you can walk out there dressed in a potato sack, it doesn't matter. But if you believe in what you're doing, you're going to have every eye on you anyway. That's right. Believe you're a potato sack. You got to believe it. Yeah. The origin news.
Yeah, I've always bitched about this, where just watching peers play and just watching other bands just going out to shows, and just you can see who is going to do something and stay around for the long term versus the guys who air quotes, the weekend warriors who are doing this for a bit of fun and a bit of an outlet, and
musical bunnings.
Yeah, and so you can see that very clearly, and I think a big thing I've always spoken about, especially on the podcast with a lot of mates, is that what you said before, that tall poppy syndrome. It's that old embedded cultural sort of stigma that's in this country and through the last several generations, where we embrace the humbleness of our nation, and our culture and the way our personalities. But if anybody tries to even sort of put their head up above the crowd and say, hey, I'm really good at something, or hey, look at me doing something, then we're going to cut you back down to size. And I noticed it's changed. I think it's getting better. It's just like anything, we're always slow. We're usually a generation behind other places in the world, and I notice that people are starting to get better at it. But it is a tough thing. Like, even for myself, when I choose to do something or put something out there, I have this instinctive hesitation that kicks in where I'm like, oh, should I? And then I quickly overcome it. But it's that autopilot that kicks in where it's like, oh, I feel like I shouldn't be doing this because somebody's going to tell me that, I should not be, having a go at this. I should just be staying in my lane and just doing something modest and humble and just, not big noting yourself.
It's just that culture of waking up in the morning, if you start every morning by saying something negative or being opposed to something, it becomes ingrained. And the same people that would be feeling that, unless you're absolutely atrocious as a musician, then if people keep saying that stuff, it's more just built into them as a negative vibed person anyway, before they even got to the show. I wouldn't be too worried about them thinking that, oh dear, he's gone and he's doing a windmill in the middle of that solo. What a fucking toss-up. Just like, yeah, well, I'm sorry I made you feel like that from the back of the room where you were staring into your phone for the last 40 minutes. Like, who cares?
Well, I always say to people, if you have somebody that is critical, very critical of what you do, then just have a quick look at, especially if it's online, go and have a look at their profile and have a scroll through their own feed and see how they're conversing with everybody else. And you'll probably notice that they're doing the same to everybody. And so it's never a personal thing. It's just a reflection of their own behavior and their own outlook on life anyway. So it's a good way to sort of cut it off and just disconnect and just stay on track with what you're doing.
And they more than likely would have a tap-out singlet and brown pair of pants somewhere too.
I heard on the grapevine that just speaking of clothes, that you got a bit of a fondness for tracksuits.
Tracksuits. I don't have a fondness. I actually just have one or two. And being ISO, well, I'm not seeing the Queen for scones, so it doesn't really matter what I'm wearing, does it? As long as I'm productive in my paintings. But I do not take myself too seriously when I'm going to be doing certain things online and that. So if I want to wear a onesie or a maroon Maxon tracksuit with my girlfriend, well, I'll go ahead and do it.
Well, fair call. Because this is the first time we've actually spoken together, I did a little bit of digging, or attempted to do a bit of digging, and so I reached out to our mutual mate Adrian, who we stole for
McGruff.
Yeah, that's the one. And we stole him for a little bit from you guys, and I said, Adrian, I'm going to have a chat with Sam. What are some things? Like, give me some things to think about, what I can write down, and maybe things to talk about. And so I've got a little list here. I had to actually stop him because he couldn't stop, and I had to go to bed last night.
Yeah.
And so some of the things that he wrote down is he's got a pet snake called is it Paloma?
Yeah, I've actually got two. I've got two snakes. They're a future breeding pair. Paloma the Woma and Homer the Woma. So, and when they have a child, I'll call it Jonah the Woma. So, yeah, really exhausting the Yoma kind of names there.
Oh, I love it. And then this is where I got the tracksuits from. He said he also loves to wear ridiculous tracksuits in public.
Yeah, so he thinks they're ridiculous because I've never seen him wear a pair of shorts. So he's woken up out in his like SpongeBob SquarePants sort of cut out jeans and t-shirt, and that's what he'll live in and that's what he'll die in. So I can totally understand it from his point of view that it's ridiculous.
Yeah, now that you mention it, I can't picture Adrian in shorts at all.
We call him Benjamin Button because he doesn't age.
I love it. He actually sent me a screenshot. I think you were sharing it with the guys of a Jurassic Park tracksuit. Yes. Oh my God, I'm so gutted that they're not shipping outside the US. It's massive, like all the panels of like the original Jeep and stuff from the movie. It looks incredible. It'd be so garish and amazing. Like if I went into the tote, it would blow the speakers before the band came on. I would really love to own that tracksuit. So if there are any American listeners to your podcast, we'll happily transfer them the cash if they can guarantee that they can post it out to me. All right, I'll see if I can help you work on that one, because I had a look at it and I said to Adrian, I go, look, I have to admit it's pretty impressive, and I'm a big Jurassic Park fan.
Yeah.
The only hesitation I had was where would I wear it, and probably not so much where would I wear it, but would I wear it in its full ensemble with top and bottom.
You got to do it. It'd be like having the maxi bomb, but never getting to the biscuit bit. You got to do both bits.
All right.
So, and like we were talking before, confidence is key with everything. So if you struck down the street in your Jurassic Park full on get out with some high tops, you'll be killing it.
Yeah, and if anyone else has got a problem, then it's their problem, it's not mine.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they might like Jurassic Park 3 better than Jurassic Park 1, and they're not worth talking to.
True that. All right. Well, I'm glad we're on the same page with quite a few things here. That's good. I might have to see if we can find somebody who can order 2 of them then.
Yeah. What else has Griff loaded you up with?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so a little bit of just a fact, but he said he's left-handed like everyone in Low except for him. So he's the odd one out.
Yep. So he's apparently, I don't know if this is medically true, but apparently he'll probably live like an extra 7.5 years longer than a left-handed person.
I've heard something about that. Yeah.
It's all the very minute stresses of things like, say, the way a door handle's shaped, the way cars are made, the way scissors are made, that kind of deal, that add them all up in a human's life, and that accounts for 7.5 years of me, just having that little brain fart in your head and going, oh. And then
that extra struggle.
Yeah, that extra minute struggle added up over a human's life.
Oh, well, look, this is being time-stamped and recorded for the record, so
yeah.
We'll fast.
I used to be right-handed at one thing, but then I broke my arm, and then I had to resort to my left hand because being a teenager, what else are you going to do?
Oh, so you're right-handed to begin with?
No, only for one action, my friend.
Sorry. Yeah, don't worry. Yeah. That went over my head.
Yeah. Well, it went over my head a couple of times as well.
There's a visual. He also said you're an avid close talker.
Yes. So even though we're talking online, my nose is actually bent on the screen right now, trying to imagine it was your ear. But unfortunately, I don't have personal space. I don't understand that. I like to tell stories, and I like people when they're talking to me. I'd like to be fully immersed in what they're saying. So I tend to be like millimeters from their face when they're talking to me.
Well, that's right. Paying undivided attention.
Surround them. That's what you usually get.
Well, you must be struggling over the past few months with all the COVID measures and social distancing.
Well, it depends because, I'm social by choice when I want to be, So most of the time I spend many, many lengthy amounts of time by myself. So it's the only annoying thing about the isolation is that after all my productivity, after all me, delving into my creative juices all day long, you want to pat yourself on the back. You want to crack a beer. You want to have that soundboard of other human beings that will either shoot you down or prop you up or inspire you or annoy you or whatever, or stimulate you in some way. And when you're locked down with these 4 walls, just like that movie Hunchback of Notre Dame, when the judge goes, you've chosen a magnificent prison, but it's still a prison nonetheless. It's like, that is my room. It's the same 4 walls, and it's going to be for at least the next 6 weeks and maybe longer. So it gets tedious. And I would love to be able to just see different faces that are not the same 2 faces that I've stared upon since the end of January.
Well, hopefully you can get into somebody's ear in real life and get up and close with them sometime soon, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'll be getting up close to people's ears when this is released, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, right in the ear hole. Do you as a close talker, do you also inflict a little bit of phlegm as you're talking as well? Are you a bit of a spitter as a close talker, or are you quite controlled in that respect?
Oh, look, after a couple of dark ales, I think it's going to be light precipitation in a room for sure. Yeah. I think it's part of my charm, to be honest. And if I don't call you some ridiculous nickname and I call you by your normal full name, it probably means I don't actually like you very much. So,
yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm very selective on who I inflict myself on, I think.
So next time we bump into each other, if you just say, "Good evening, Andrew," I'll be like, "Oh shit, okay, not good."
Oh, Andy Dowling was third. Yeah. Just put a cigarette out on your forehead and walk away. Boy, it's enough, boy.
I remember, just speaking of foreheads, I remember years and years ago when I first started going to shows and I was living in Brisbane, and I won't name the band or the person because, probably just not a good idea, but I was just barely 18 and I was just getting used to sort of being out and trying to find like-minded people, and I was at this extreme metal gig in Brisbane, and this band member was at the bar, and there was a couple of mutual acquaintances there, and I walked up and I was having a chat to a few of these people, and this particular guy from this band had finished playing, and he'd been suckling on a few beers throughout the night, so he was a bit sloshed, and he looked at me and he got really close to the front of my face and just headbutted me really hard, like almost knocked me off my feet, and just dizzy, and I had no idea what was going on. I'm a guy that does not like confrontation whatsoever, so there was no sort of instinctive, I'm going to get into fight mode or anything like that. It was just like trying to work out what is reality at the moment. And then he just went back to talking to somebody, and somebody whispered in my ear and said, he headbutts people when he likes them. And I just, me being barely 18 and just the biggest loser, I just went, oh, okay. And then I went back to drinking my beer. And then I didn't talk to that guy for the rest of the night, of course. But I'll never forget that. As far as apparently that was the way that he made friends with people. But over the years, I never really had a conversation with him again.
Yeah, I don't know. People are people, I guess, but it's like he's not a male Sumatran rhino on heat. He doesn't have to headbutt you to get your attention. Like, I don't know why that would be the chosen way of having a social exchange with someone he admires. But oh well, at least you live to tell the tale.
Oh, that's right. It was a bit of an edgy moment for him. So and look, I'm telling the tale years later. So it's it's the gift that keeps on giving. So there you go. Another thing that Adrian said is that you grew up in the Shire.
I did, yes. Yes.
I spent a couple of years living in the Shire, and
what part of the Shire?
I lived in Cronulla for a year.
Oh hell yeah, you were deep.
Yeah, I was deep. I was
230 tattooed on your nutsack.
I was getting close. I was a couple streets back from Northies, and
wow, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and
Fusions, 2 worlds, 2 rooms.
Sorry, say it again.
Did you ever hit up Club Fusions, 2 rooms, 2 worlds?
No, I do. I definitely know the place.
An 80s room and a 90s room.
Yeah. I think that was the place where you'd find some of the Cougars. It was either there or the Vinyl Room in Gymea.
Yeah, Vinyl Room, grab a granny. Yeah. Yeah. You'd end up trying to hook up with your mate's mum when you were listening to Grease Megamix.
Love it. Yeah, I was there for a year, and then I lived in Kirrawee for what was it, 2 or 3 years? Yeah, so it was okay.
My brother helps run a brewery in Kirrawee at the moment.
Yeah, right. I haven't been there.
Yeah, it's it's only popped up the last couple of years. It's called Sunday Road Brewing. It's they're quite a tasty drop.
Oh, very good. Well, I'll have to check it out sometime. My brother lives there these days, so maybe that's the excuse I need to go and visit him.
Yeah. Well, either that or a stale cheese and bacon roll. I'm sure you can pick up from any of the bakeries around there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Whereabouts in the Shire did you live?
I lived in the Creme de la Creme area, my friend. I lived in Lillypelly, Dolan's Bay, so kind of like Woolaware, but nowhere near as racist. Yeah, so I've led a pretty privileged upbringing, I guess, like on the border of being near to reserves and the national park, and 5 minutes drive from the beach, and a long line of history of the surf lifesaving and local sportsing sort of clubs. It was nice enough, but if you want to read books and you don't want to be racist and you want to see a bit of the world, then you have to eventually elope from the Shire and get out of there.
That was one thing I did notice when I was living there, is that when you started to interact a little bit more with the locals and go to the pub or whatever it is and just talking to somebody, and you realise that people just don't leave. They have kids, the kids stay there, and then they have kids with others in the area, and they just they just stay in that area and just do not leave at all. And it's a very ancestral world in that part of Sydney. Yeah, it's a very unique spot. Like I remember it was telling people, because I lived in Brisbane and then moved to Sydney, and I was living in Marrickville to begin with, and then I went from Marrickville to Cronulla.
Yeah.
And I remember telling somebody, and they're like, "Oh, where were you living before?" And I said, "Marrickville," and they're like, "Oh, jeez." And I go, "Oh, what's wrong with it?" And he goes, "Oh, I don't know. Haven't been there, but geez, why would you wanna?"
Well, the main one we used to get when we were growing up, because if I wanted to go to the gigs and meet other people, because I was a pretty hectic goth when I was in my teens, and I'd want to go to the wonderful place called Moore Road, and I'd try and get out there, and it'd be like a half an hour walk from my house to the train station, then an hour train in, then another like 20-minute walk, and to get anyone that was even slightly interested in music to want to venture past Tom Ugly's bridge, it was out of the question. It was not going to happen. So people would think it was a stretch to go more than 2 suburbs away from where they were. So it's a very kind of like the apple never rots far from the tree vibe.
There you go. Oh, well, as a goth hanging out in Enmore Road, there was Postmortem Records, which was there for a little bit, the metal store, and then there was there was a shop there, a gothic shop. That was, I'm just trying to think of the name of it.
Yeah, it's still there, I'm pretty sure. Invisible Light is one of them. It's, got it's about 50% dust, really. And then it's got a lot of kind of aging, what are they, like Living Dead dolls.
Oh, yep.
Tim Burton-esque paper, like ceramic plates and stuff. Then you've got Gallery Serpentine.
That's the one I'm thinking. Yeah,
it's a more classy affair that's for all your bodices and your corsets and giant new rock boots and parasols to wear around when you're smoking a clove cigarette when you're in the Newtown Cemetery and listening to Skinny Puppy on your little iPod and that back in the early 2000s. But, yeah, there's a lot of kooky stuff that went down for sure.
Well, one of the things that Adrian said is that he used to be a goth. So there you go. So you got ahead of that one.
Yeah. It's it's hard. It was a bit of a contradiction for me to be so inclined to be away from the sun, because I've always kept reptiles and I've always gone looking for reptiles in national parks. So imagine a guy on a 40-degree day wearing, 100 plus SPF sun cream, with long sleeve shirt, jeans and Doc Martens, trying to find, water dragons and death adders. It's going to be a very sweaty affair.
I'm just envisioning this guy with like a trench coat walking through the forest.
Yeah, I used to get a couple of apple cores thrown at me when I do the big walk down the never-ending road to get to the local train station.
Yeah, even for me, like I didn't go through the goth phase, but just I went through what I mentioned before, the cargo short sort of just Pantera shirt sort of thing. I mean, mind you, I'm pretty sure I've still got some camo cargo shorts lying around here anyway, so I'm not that far removed from it. But I remember just walking up Kingsway and just getting hurled abuse by people just driving past, especially when you're walking back from a pub late at night. You're just too much of a tight ass to get on the train. Yeah. And just people just yelling out, just going, and especially with long hair as well. You're just you're a magnet for fools. Yeah, very much so. It all sort of changed. Like it changed a little bit, maybe in the mid 2000s when the emo sort of thing came with a resurgence, and people with kind of questionable haircuts became the mainstream, and then you could kind of hide amongst it, being a long hair smith, and you could get away with it a bit without copping too much. But luckily I moved out quite a long time ago, and I would never want to move back. Well, I was going to say that's a shame, but it's definitely not a shame. It's you're living a better life now, I think.
Oh, just living a educated one, I think.
Oh, well, that's something, isn't it?
Mm.
What else did Adrian have here? He loves Alanis Morissette.
I do.
Big fan.
Yeah, I answered that a bit too eagerly. Sorry.
Just validate it.
Look, this is the thing. I did a bit of nerding out on your previous podcast with certain people, like your geologist friend, and that's what I reckon, and all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, I was listening to that sort of thing of in the subgenres of metal and that they've always got the diehard person that never seems to branch out of the heavy spectrum of music. But that's definitely not me. Like I am well aware of where I came from, what influences me, and a good song is a good song is a good song. So I love the craftsmanship of an anthem, and when you look at an album like Jagged Little Pill, holy crap, like every single thing on that is a banger. It's perfectly crafted, and I bought tickets to go see her do the 25th or 30th, whatever anniversary tour that was supposed to happen in like June this year in Melbourne. That got canned, so I'm fingers crossed that the rescheduled dates for that in late November might still happen, but who knows? Like, I would love to see that live. I never got to see her live.
I really don't know much about her. I assume that there'd be, 2 or 3 big hit songs. I mean, there's probably more than that. It's probably one of those artists, like a lot of artists that.
Well, I'll put it into perspective for all those people out there.
Yeah.
When you look at, say, physical album sales, you've got someone like Britney Spears, and she's sold maybe something it's like 20,000 or something. I mean, 20 million units of her big one, Hit Me Baby One More Time.
Yep.
And look at Jagged Little Pill, it's something crazy like 39 or 41 million units.
Wow.
And that's for an alternative woman that self-indulgently shoves a harmonica in her eardrum for half an hour on stage. Like, that's so much better than a person grinding up against a fake locker room, It's an amazing piece of work. I love it.
Well, I know what I'm going to do after we wrap up this conversation. I'm going to go and chuck that on and have a listen to it, because I think I only know a handful of songs, I think, but I'm all about musicianship, and as I've mentioned a bunch of times on the podcast, a good song's a good song. I couldn't care what genre it is or what imagery is around it. It's a well-crafted song is what it is. You can't deny it. So
yeah, it's just like I challenge anyone out there to realistically look me in the face and tell me that they're not thinking that Purple Rain by Prince is a good song. Like, if you think that it's not a good song, I'm afraid you're stealing useful DNA. Like, you shouldn't be around.
Well, I can't. I'm definitely not one of those people. It's definitely a good song. So yeah, I'll have to definitely do a bit of research now. You've inspired me. I wrote it down when I spoke to Adrian. I thought, oh yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But look, you sold the concept. You sold the idea, and
yep.
I'll go away and have a listen to that, and I'll report back and let you know.
Yeah. So go to a Caltex. Go to the bargain CD section, pick up a Michael Bublé best of, get yourself an Alanis Morissette CD, stick it in one of your 15 cargo pants pockets, stumble on home, look at that scar on your forehead from when you met that guy in Brisbane, and then start rocking out to every one of the hits on Alanis Morissette.
Oh, well, yeah, I was going to say it's certainly not a hard album to find, but what a combo. All right, okay, yeah, done. All right, I think you just mapped out my Thursday tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'll take a selfie as I'm walking into Caltex.
Yeah.
I'll have to go and dust off the camo cargo shorts.
And then you'll be like going, wow, $6.50 for a maxi bond. No, I'm not going to pay that.
That's right. But paying $39.95 for Alanis Morissette on CD in Caltex.
Yep.
Yeah. But hey, but from what you've said, it's probably worth every single cent. So there you go.
Yeah. There we go. I should. I think I've got shares in Morissette now.
Yeah. A long-term investor.
Yeah.
There you go. And one of the last things that Adrian said is that you pronounce words wrong. So
Yes,
he gave
I
me
do.
a few examples, and maybe you've got some additional ones you wanna add in. I mean, you might just not agree with any of this whatsoever, but he said that you can't pronounce Newtown right. You say Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
Yeah.
News, you say news,
Yeah, have you read it in the news?
news. Mushroom, you say mushroom,
Yeah, mushroom risotto.
and mustard,
Mustard, yep, yep.
mustard.
What a mustard on your hot dog.
I knew dog.
Look, let's just face it. We're all glorified apes. We invent religion and spirituality to stave off the fingering of the reaper every 5 minutes. And you got to be able to amuse yourself. Like, I don't have the risk of a saber-toothed tiger ripping me in half. I don't have the risk of starving to death. I need to pass the time somehow that amuses me and slightly irritates Adrian. So I'm going to make up funny little whimsical doodad words every 5 minutes just to pass the time.
Well, it's obviously had an impact on Adrian, because the fact that was one of the things that he mentioned when I asked, like, tell me more about Sam. Oh, and this is one of the ones that comes up. So there you go. It's had some significant impact.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, it's always better to be remembered, than forgotten. So if all I am to someone is an annoying vocabulary, well, at least they can quote me on it.
So those are the ones before I had to cut him off and just say, all right, that's enough, mate. And he's like, I could just keep going. I'm sure you could. And then I even said to him, I go, look, maybe you should just do the podcast with Sam.
Yeah.
And I'll just take a step back. So we could do a round 2 and just get him involved as well, and he can lead the way. But I thought maybe it might be a good idea I might be putting you on the spot a little bit, but have you got any insights when it comes to Adrian? Because I've known him for a few years, and he helped us out for a little while in Lord as well, and I know him okay, reasonably well, but I don't think I know him probably as well as you do. So what sort of thoughts do you have if I came to you and said, look, I'm about to go and have a chat to Adrian on the podcast? Sam, what can you tell me about him?
Well, to be honest, like all joking aside, the man is an inspiration when it comes to drumming. Like, he's very effortless in a lot of styles that he's able to replicate straight away. Like, he's done a grab bag of pretty much everyone's bands over the last 25 years or so, and he shows no sort of way of slowing down and being creative or ability to adapt to someone's set. His favourite part of music is definitely when he's in the studio recording something. Like, I think we like to joke that he just fucking hates playing live and he just hates being in a band, but really he loves every second of it. But he really shines when it comes to being able to show off and do all the hard work in like perfect takes in the studio. He's incredibly good with website design and anything to do with gadgets. Like, I voluntarily hate technology. Like, I'm so useless at everything to do with applying myself to everything that's completely changing. Meanwhile, he's just manages to just pick these things up straight away. He's always very enthusiastic about what things are going on with that stuff. And he's got a very cute little family with a very enviable collection of succulents on his porch. He's not a punishing vegan. He's one of the under the radar vegans. And he's a good bloke. He can drink anyone under the table for sure. He's got the most politest sized forehead I've ever seen on another human being. It's ridiculous. And I might be a bit cocky here, but you and I we're men of the head,
We certainly are. Well, I am definitely.
Definitely be good in a medieval, lunchtime play at a high school for sure. But Griff, it's measured in mere millimeters, Like, a hummingbird egg is probably about the height of his forehead from his eyebrows. And he always looks good. He's a dashing young man, and and he never wears shorts. So that's my sum up of Adrian Griffin.
Well, I think that would be more than enough for me to work with and to get started in a conversation with him. So when I conveniently forget about everything when it comes to Adrian, I'll use those notes and kick off a conversation again with him. Oh, I love it, and I think it's quite funny because I think two things that you said where. You mentioned he's got a preference, like he appears to have a preference of being more of a studio guy rather than being out and playing live shows. He enjoys everything, but that's where he really sort of thrives.
Never to say that, like, seriously, like, I've never once worried about the stamina or the energy levels from a fellow band member in live. Never. I don't have to think about that. They're not in my thought when we go do a tour because I know that everyone is going to go fucking hard as soon as we walk on stage, It's just that I know that he absolutely loves being in the studio. So he recently just did a release with Slowly Building Weapons, which are an amazing sort of post-rock, weird, atmospheric, black metal-ish band that's made up of members of from Sydney and Japan. And I reckon it's going to be one of the best releases that comes out this year, and he would have just effortlessly done that.
Yeah, I remember when we first started talking about him helping us out for a while, and when we first started talking, we were recording our album, and he was more, at least from my perception, he was more interested in wanting to know where we're up to with the recording of our album than actually doing any shows, which is what we needed him for. And he's like, "Have you done the drums yet? Like, do you need me to do session drums?" And we're like, "Oh no, that's sorted. We're okay." And he's like, "Are you sure? Like, I've got a studio here. I can come down or whatever." And we're like, "No, that's okay." And then Tim in our band's like, I wish I knew a few months earlier. I would have got him on board." So yeah, and even just to hear you say that, like it echoes the experiences that I've had with him, because he certainly seems to thrive when he's in those situations.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's because it's got gadgets. He just likes the gadget.
And the other thing you mentioned about gadgets, when it comes to websites, I mean, I'm exactly the same as you. I just cannot get my head around anything when it comes to technology. I can't keep up with stuff. I just lose motivation really quickly, because it's just like, I have to sit here patiently and try and work something out. And especially, like, I'm happy to do that when it's something that appeals to me, but technology still is a big learning curve, and I just don't have that motivation. But Adrian built like 2 or 3 of my websites and just helped me get all that stuff together, and he just sort of said, yeah, just do this. It's like easy as. I'm like, what? Okay, all right, no worries. So he just has this knack for being able to just dive in there and just what looks to be ultra complicated and make it really, really simple, and just do it with this air of just this carefree sort of approach that he takes to everything. He's just so chilled and laid back. Nothing's a big stress, or at least it doesn't show on the outside.
Yeah. I guess it's that thing of the adaptability and the willingness for things to always be in flux is something. If you want to have a handle on technology, you just got to surrender yourself to the fact that things are going to change. And unfortunately, I'm a bit of a Galapagos tortoise in that sort of stuff, because I like to see constants. I get like emotionally distraught if a pair of jeans doesn't last at least 12 months. Like, I get angry if my jackets don't last 5 to 6 years. And it sounds so weird because I'm going to die. Like, I age every day and I fucking hate it. And it's that thing of everything is maintenance. Everything, if I set out to do it, it should be done. And then it's perfect and pristine. And on the 7th day, I jerked off. Like, that's the way it works. Yeah. And, like, but that's not what life is. Life is in constant flux. And it's something that I need to get my head around, and it will make the anxiety, nightmares fizzle out eventually.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you on that. I love to have things in place and just let it. It's sort of like a set and forget. Once it's stable, it does what it needs to do, and no frills, like nothing fancy. Just give me whatever it needs to do, serve its purpose, and then I move on.
Yep.
And when that becomes outdated, doesn't work anymore, it becomes sluggish, doesn't do what it used to do anymore because we've decided to change or move the goalposts, using a bit of sport terminology. I really struggle. I get a little bit, I have a bit of a tantrum, and I have to go through the motions, and hopefully if I control myself, I'll go through it internally. I won't demonstrate externally. And it's a bit of a process that I have to go through until eventually I'll come out the other side and go, all right, what do we actually need to do here? What do I need to get my head around now? What do I need to do to actually move forward? Because whatever I have been doing, which I thought was completely fine, I can't do it anymore because everything's changing around me.
Yeah.
So I think enough of Adrian. I think he's had too much of a spotlight, and I'll have to get him back on the podcast and have a few more beers with him, and I'm sure he'll have a few things to say. As he's a man of few words, but at the same time he does love a chinwag, and he's usually got a few good stories to tell as well. But you have to sort of get him started.
Yeah.
But one thing I wrote down, which it definitely sparked something in me. I thought, well, I need to check this with you. So, snakes get bad press.
Yep.
Is that still a thing?
No, unfortunately. It was a band that I helped found when I moved back from England in early 2011. And it lasted for a couple of years, and we managed to do an EP and do a couple of little tours and some notable shows with bands like Full of Hell and that. But when it came time to do our first album, we had the studio booked. We'd done some preliminary writing for it, but unfortunately, as I know all too well, if you're not mentally healthy, it's going to take its toll in your creative process. And we had members that clearly needed help, and they've grown from it, but it organically imploded because of that sort of thing. And there was no hard feelings or anything like that, but it was definitely of the time. And I loved being in that band initially and the friends that I made through it. But the best part that it gave me was I basically got poached for Low, and then from Low I got poached for Hadal Maw. So it was kind of like the seed that kept on growing, you know?
That's pretty cool. I saw the band name, and I was trying to work out whether it was a sort of like a bit of a joke thing that was put together, or knowing that, you know, you've got snakes and you're, you know, I don't know what you would say. Like, you know, I was going to say you're an animal fan, which just sounds like the most ridiculous thing to say. But, you know, you're somebody that's passionate about reptiles and animals, and I've seen like a lot of your paintings that you've been doing, and I thought, oh, maybe this has probably had a bit more of a serious approach to sort of the whole ethos behind the band.
Well, yeah, it was more to do with, one, that's a very literal way of looking at it, that snakes, ever since Adam and Eve, have had copped a bad rap. But it's that also thing of what is a snake, you know, that like your cryptic, double-faced political leaders, your religious sycophants, your charlatans of business and politics and warmongering. That kind of thing is also snakes in popular culture. So it's all what you want to lump on top of it from your own musings, you know? Yeah.
I guess, yeah, there's definitely multiple meanings behind it then, thinking a little bit deeper underneath it. Yeah. When I read it, I certainly sort of thought initially, I think that's just more me probably knowing a lot of people that like to make sort of really fucking ridiculous bands as a piss take.
Yeah.
But
let's just divvy into that a little bit, because it's always got to have a funny story. But what's the worst band name that you've ever heard, Andy?
Look, I'm
possibly the best for being the worst.
Best for being the worst. Well, I was going to say worst band name. I'm always careful because our band name is pretty bad. But,
Lord,
yeah.
it's iconic, man.
Sorry?
It's iconic.
Oh, well, yeah, maybe. I don't know. Yeah. I'm always reluctant to shit on another band's name because I think, well, it's going to come back quickly on me.
Will it though?
No, probably not. Thinking about what we said earlier.
Yeah, I doubt it. I listened to that podcast you did with the geologist. Remember, we're literally a sparrow's fart in the cosmos. So,
yeah.
would it actually matter?
I think you're more up to date on my podcast than me. I might have to go back and have a listen.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
I don't know. Look, I think there's lots of different versions of shit band names. I think there's the ones that are like several words long, where it's this the perception of this real intentional need to be pretentious with the way that they've articulated this long-winded band name.
Oh yeah.
I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. Then there's the very sort of
a lot of those bands tend to wear no socks with their Clark school shoes.
I didn't pick that up, but now that you mentioned it, yeah.
Yeah, it's like they purposely buy the jeans to not fit them. As in, it's just like there's a lot of shin action going on.
Yeah, they do ride up a little bit high. Yeah, they do. But there's also the band names that are very generic, which have come off the back of 50 million bands over the past several decades. Just very sort of very traditional heavy metal band names, very tough metal band names that are just very expected. But I don't know. Off the top of my head, there's nothing that sort of comes to mind. But I'm assuming that you might have one in particular.
You should be in politics, Andy, because you basically
diplomatic
got through that question without giving me an answer.
Throw it back on you.
Yeah. But yeah. So my answer, I'm very happy to answer that.
Yeah.
But the worst, probably the worst one, but also the best for being the worst that I've ever seen is I saw when we were in Japan, there was stickers just everywhere, or like on every like hallway and all over the men's room toilets and stuff. And there was one that I'm pretty sure Adrian Shapiro, our bass player, pointed out, and I just couldn't get over it. It said "fucked by crap."
That's pretty good.
And I'm like, what a visual that paints. Like, did they freeze it before they did something with it? It would be quite mushy. But so that was a pretty bad one for being also good. And then the one that I've always just kind of been dumbfounded with, and like, I'm not like a Renaissance man or anything, but it's that thing of, I don't understand the name. I don't understand the concept of it. Is Hands Like Houses. I don't understand that name.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I don't get it. Are you making a little teepee with your hands like you're an infant? Or is it like, I don't know, did everyone in your house, were they born without limbs? Like I don't know. Like, are you jealous of people with multiple fingers? I'm not sure. But that name, it's never sat well with me. And moving along, that was what all my punchline was going to be.
Well, we built up to it. I think it's one of those things. Especially, I was so self-conscious with our band name when we sort of hit the ground running and started playing shows, where I was just always thinking about. We always, and we still do these days, not as much as we used to, but we always get mixed in with, are you guys a Christian band? Do you have that sort of stuff? And I have always had a big chip on my shoulder when it comes to religion. So I've always sort of had this very sort of tough time with just that, and just from upbringing and just a lot of stuff in my past. But whenever somebody said that, I was so self-conscious about it that I'd try and separate as much as I can all the time. And then for me to reassure myself in the early days when I was sort of going through this is I would use the very obvious example of a band like Kiss. And you look at the name and you go, well, it's such a dumb word to call your band. But eventually people just look at the name and they don't think of what the origin of the word is. They're just thinking, well, that's the name of the band, and that's and.
You reckon if this had originated in Australia, it would have been called Smooch?
Yeah, maybe. There's a thought. Yeah, I'm already like, I've got a pen here. I'm just, I mean, you might be able to do it better than me. Do you want to try and sketch that out in their font?
You know how like Kiss has sort of got that at the end, so you do imagine the lightning bolt kind of S's going on there.
Yeah.
I guess Smooch sounds more sort of tactile and smushy, so I guess it'd be more like the slime kind of logo, you know?
Yeah, a little bit more drip at the bottom.
Bumpy looking. Yeah.
There you go. No, I never thought of that, but now you watch. Every time I go and look at a Kiss record now, I'm just going to look at it and go Smooch.
And you'll be like, you wanted the best. You got the best. Sit there. Smooch loves you.
Oh man, but I look at those words, I look at the names, and I start to associate it just with the band, and I lose the meaning of the words. And I think probably for you, like, I don't write lyrics in the band, I don't contribute sort of from that perspective. And I think for you, you know, I'm just having a guess, but you know, from you're putting together words, you're putting together meaning and storylines and these concepts, and I guess you're probably a little bit more in tune with meaning and sort of the why behind why people are naming things what they are.
Yeah, like, so who knows? Like, because I'm in a situation where my two current bands, I didn't name them. You know, I became part of the fold after their first initial release or releases. So I wasn't there for that initial naming. I'm very lucky that I'm in bands where both their names do have cool meanings and origins. But, you know, I'm still a bit jealous that I'm not in Butthole Surfers, but, yeah, that's all my time.
Actually, I've got a candidate for one of the shittest band names in the world. I was just having a look. I've got a pile of CDs to the right of me, so I was just having a quick look as you're talking. Pink Cream 69.
Pink Cream?
Pink Cream 69.
Oh, Pink Cream.
Yeah, Pink Cream, yeah. It's a German band, so probably no surprises there. Just Germans with their choice of band names are not always the best.
Yeah.
But yeah, Pink Cream 69, a hard rock band from Germany. They've been around for a few decades, and I mean, great band if you're into sort of that melodic rock, sort of bit of 80s cheese, but possibly one of the shittest band names ever.
Yeah, it's not a nice visual either, is it?
No. So
like maybe it was, he overdid it so much that it took on a pinkish hue when it came out.
There's a few 80s bands that had some pretty average names. I'm just trying to think of some of those glam or sleaze rock bands like Pretty Boy Floyd and what else was there? There's a bunch of bands like that where you sort of scratch your head and go, well, I guess they were trying to sort of ride the wave of some of that garbage that was going.
I would say that's the wave they were riding most of the time, Andy.
Well, yeah,
the massive cocaine wave.
Felt good at the time.
Felt good at the time. Yeah.
Living in the moment, not thinking about the future.
Yeah.
And haven't aged. I don't think themselves haven't aged terribly well, and some of their band names haven't either.
See, if you're gonna, that's the thing. Like you gotta luck out with sort of things like that. Like you can be like Tom Waits and Alice Cooper, and as long as you look like an inch from deaf when you're 21, well, then you can be consistently looking like an inch from deaf till you're dead.
It's like Iggy Pop, isn't it? Like he just, he's always looked ancient. He had his
time in the sun. He looked like an amazing, wuff kind of Peter Pan-esque impish vibe for quite a long time, and now he's basically beef jerky.
But I mean, I guess maybe he's changed, but I mean, he has changed, but he's still a force to be reckoned with, though. Like, he's an amazing artist. But he still seems like the same person. He still seems like he's, I don't know. I think just it seems to be a similar concept.
When you hit 25, he's only ever given me like a couple of pearls of wisdom. And one of it, I remember asking him, like, as like a late teen or whatever, I went, Dad, like, what do you think about it? Like, what's your personality like? Is it different to when you were younger, blah, blah, blah? And he went, to be honest, mate, you're the same person you are mentally pretty much once you hit like 25.
That's
He goes,
scary.
you'll have more responsibilities, more depression, more anxieties, less sleep, bad back, blah, blah, blah. But in essentialness, the hopes and dreams that you have and the things that you think about most things is pretty much there. You're just in an older husk.
Well, depending on where you're at when you're 25, that's either a real positive or it's a bit worrying.
Well, in that sort of terms, why do you think Download keeps bringing out Limp Bizkit and Korn?
That's right. It's true.
It's because the majority of the boomers and, people to become boomers, they're still thinking about when they were eating the Kit Kat chunky behind the demountables and listening to everyone say, fuck that, fuck that, fuck that, That's where the money's at.
I was going to say that's what sells the tickets.
Yeah, you can leave your ferret and your 2 kids at home, and you can go get on the bags of the boys and blow your entire month's paycheck saying Limp Bizkit get down.
Start to break stuff, or at least pretend to break some stuff.
Oh, yeah, it's all an illusion anyway. It's just art, isn't it? High art, apparently.
Well, I certainly won't get on a rant with Download because, it's...
Oh, I'm not knocking Download. I'm just not it's an observation of the billing.
Oh yeah, no, that's what I mean. It's the choice of, but I guess in the end it's a business, isn't it? You've got to pick what's going to cater for the crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, dare iced coffee.
It just reminds me of where those red hot summer tours are at the moment, and then thinking about where those types of tours are going to be in the next 20 years, depending on whatever the hell happens to live music. But, I just think that transition is going to be sort of that Download crowd going into that red hot summer crowd.
Well, who knows? I don't even know if festivals will exist,
Probably not.
Maybe in a bubble in like a fish tank society on the other end of Mars, who knows? But it's not looking too good at the moment, is it?
No. Well, I think a few people are getting quite comfortable already tuning into live streams and sitting on the couch drinking beers, and I don't think not anyone, but I think a lot of people aren't too motivated to even go out and see live shows anyway. So who knows? Maybe just the market is just to feed it through everybody's living room, and that's about it. Who knows?
Well, humanity was one Xbox app away, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, on that absolute high note.
Yeah.
Well, I might wrap it up, but Sam, I have had your name on my list for a while because you're one of the more intriguing guys. And as I mentioned before, when I first saw you on stage in Tokyo a few years ago, I just thought, oh man, this is a really intimidating guy. And obviously I'd seen some stuff online with some of the music you've been doing over the years, but just a very, very interesting character. And that's what I said to Adrian. And talking to you, and I think it's just interesting to see just the difference between what you put out there, visually and artistically, and who you are as a person. And I love it. I think it's so good. And I had the thought in the back of my head when I was looking through my list is that you were one of the people in Melbourne that I'd eventually reach out to and say, hey, I'm in Melbourne. Do you want to meet up and we'll do a podcast in person? So eventually, when you guys work yourselves out down there, and maybe there's a little less of this virus going around, then maybe we might have to catch up and have another chat.
Yeah, for sure, mate. Well, you'll need to keep your mask on because, like I said, I'm a close talker, and you might get a bit spittled on you, but it'll be worth it in the end.
Yeah, well, I'm a bit of a close spit talker as well myself. So when Adrian did mention that, it struck a nerve.
Like a snake eats the tail, just perpetually spitting on each other's big foreheads.
Well, if you find any spare time during your busy day, if you want to carve out 15 minutes to draw that visual, then by all means, and we can put it in the show notes for everyone to check out.
Yeah.
Oh, mate, thank you so much. And and by the way, my little Larry says thanks for tagging him in that cockatiel painting that you did yesterday or the day before.
Oh yes, that's actually that was a commission I got for Adrian Griffin's wife's friend who owns that particular bird that looks almost identical to your Larry.
There you go.
That's pretty much what I've been surviving off in my new business stuff is I paint. I paint pictures of natural history and people's pets and loved ones, and I'm on Instagram as Sam_Raptors, and that's what I do. So I'm more than happy to draw a 5-penis axolotl, or perhaps a very nice, somber picture of your grandma. Either way, I'm quite happy to do it.
The possibilities are endless.
Well, literally.
Yeah.
Limit to their own imagination, Andy.
Yeah. Well, I might hit you up for a Larry portrait sometime in the near future, so we'll talk more.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, go and reach out to Sam and say, "G'day, mate," by going to samraptors.com. That's his art website. You can also check out his band's Low, which features good old Adrian Griffin on drums, who has been a previous guest on the podcast, as well as a drummer, one of many of the drummers that's been in Lord over the years. So you can go and check out Low by going to lookandbehold.net, and go and check out Sam's other band, Hadal Maw, which is hadalmaw.com. And of course, the links to the bands, to Sam's art, to all the socials, everything will be in the show notes over at andysocial.net or andydowling.net. And of course, you can just stab your little thumb, your little digits into the screen. Don't smash them too hard, otherwise you'll crack the screen. But you can click through. Should be some clickable links in the show notes of whatever podcast player you're listening to right now. Nice and easy. Go and reach out to Sam, say hello, and go back and say hello to one of the couple hundred guests that have been on the Andy Social podcast over the past 5 freaking years. It's been 5 years. Lots of people. So go back and find a random episode. Find some random guy or gal and listen to it. And if you like it, reach out to them and say, "G'day, hello, I like that episode," and make their day. Give them a little bit of Andy Social love. It'll go a long way, because they sacrificed a bit of time to cop an ear bashing from your mate Andy, and I'm sure they'll be thrilled to hear from you as well. So make sure you go back and listen to some of those fantastic chats from over the past 5 years. Just ridiculous. It's still going. So, and we're not slowing down. So there you go. Now, before we wrap it up, you guys know the drill. I crap on about this every week. Patreon.com/Andy Dowling. Please, if you're considering supporting this podcast in any way, in addition to listening to this every week, thank you very much, by the way, you can go to patreon.com/Andy Dowling. Support starts from only $1 a month. Now, you don't get anything apart from a little warm and fuzzy feeling in your gut, but you set it and forget it. You don't even have to think about it. It's a coin from your pocket into mine. And if you want to throw me a couple of extra coins as well, then you get access to an exclusive Patreon podcast episode every week that comes out Tuesday mornings. Now, slight tangent, this episode is the second episode that I've released that is Monday mornings at 6 a.m. So let me know what you think. For the past 5 years, more or less, these podcasts have been coming out on Thursday nights at 8 p.m. So now I've decided, let's mix it up a bit and put the new episodes out every Monday morning at 6 a.m. I kind of like the idea of it. Start your week with a brand new episode, load into your podcast player and just go and carpe diem, baby. But hey, let me know what you think. I'm all ears. So there we go. Enough of me. Another guest coming up next week. I cannot remember who it is. I've got a mix mash of all sorts of people and they're all out of order. I've got no idea what's going on, but rest assured, next Monday morning, there's going to be another legend added to the list of many legends that have been on this podcast for the past 5 years. All right, signing out. Take care. See you later. Bye-bye.